Hi, everyone. This is Marilyn Bradford, and I would like to welcome you to my Left Turn podcast. What is your left turn? Writing a blog, parenting in a different way, letting go of the old because you are aware of something greater. Left turns are choices we can all make. It's about a willingness to step into the unknown in any area of your life, to trust yourself, to risk creating or trying something new. It's about letting your true uniqueness shine. The greatest people who have lived, artists, statesmen, writers, explorers, musicians, have all been people willing to turn left. What capacities do you have that you have not acknowledged? What would your life and the world be like if you were willing to turn left? Hello, everyone. I'm Marilyn Bradford, and welcome to this edition of the Left Turn podcast. Everybody else is going right. We're going left. And I have one of my absolutely favorite people with me today, a person very dear to me, Betsy McLoughlin. And there's so many words to describe Betsy and so many things that she's done, but she's so joyful, empowering, incredibly competent, particularly in all the things I'm not in, which is great because she helps me all the time, but just brilliant in her own right. She's been with Access Consciousness for years. She's a successful realtor. She's done all kinds of things like, let's even look at this, store owner, editor, best-selling author. She's just like, you talk about a humanoid who does everything, does it well. That's Betsy McLoughlin. Welcome, Betsy.
Well, thank you for having me on, Marilyn. What a fun introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, you've got so many left turns. It would be like kind of following a maze or something. So why don't you start with some of the ones that have created greatest for you, and or anything else about them, even if people kind of disapproved of what you chose, or just following. You've always seemed to follow what you know to be true for you, which is just awesome. Yeah. So anywhere you'd like to start with that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I have learned over my time on this planet is that when I don't do what I know is true for me, that's when I get myself in trouble. Yeah. And it could be something as simple as, I should have turned, I should have gone this way in the car. And because I didn't follow my knowing, then I get stuck in a traffic jam. It could be, obviously way bigger of a thing that I'm aware of. So I've learned this because somewhere in my childhood, when I would tell people about awarenesses, it was discounted. And you can't possibly know that, and that is not true, and all of those things. And I believed them, and I started dismissing and pushing to the side those awarenesses. And that's when I would then later, I would be like, oh, I knew that was true. See, and so I have since learned, for me, I know what is true for me. I have amazing awarenesses. And when I don't tamp them down, it creates a lot more. And it may not make sense to anybody else, and it doesn't have to. And I spent so much of my life like trying to have it make sense for other people that, I got lost.
I know that one.
Right, yeah. You can get really lost, and then you're like, who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to be doing here? What is the meaning of life? And, all of those kinds of things that can just get you all tangled up into a big ball of confusion and don't know what to do.
Right.
So for me, like really honoring and knowing that I know, even if it doesn't make sense, and even if it has nothing to do with me, if I know, I know. Okay. And then it's do I need to do anything with this?
Oh, that's another great question.
Yeah, like,
is this relevant to me?
exactly. Like, this is relevant. What should I be doing here? Do I do anything? And then from that, really following the breadcrumbs, of the, and I love glittery things, right? So I like to follow the glitter and where's this going to take me, and what will that create? And it could create a bunch of mess. It could create a bunch of beauty. If I'm willing to explore it and see where it goes, then it's wherever, and like you said, I have had a lot of left turns in my life that may not have made a whole lot of sense to a lot of people. And when I have followed that and followed the joy that it brought me, it has opened up my life and my joie de vivre, of the joy of living so much more than when I tried. And believe me, there's been many times when I have tried to fit into the mold of what you're supposed to do. I had a corporate job for a long time and I was making good money, but I was miserable. And, and then they're like, what do you mean you're going to quit your job and open up a paper art store? Are you insane? Yep, I guess I am. And that, that brought me so much joy. And I met so many amazing people. And I started this I started it as doing craft shows with a 6-foot table. And and it turned into an international destination store when I finally had built it up into a storefront. I had internationally known teachers that I would bring in all the time. And it was just like, wow, look at that. And then that was just me following what was fun. And it's like, oh, that might be fun. Let's see. Do you have a business plan? No. What do you mean you don't have a business plan? I don't. I'm just going. And, so when I did that, it always created greater. And that was way before I learned the tools of access consciousness about, following the energy, knowing what is true for you, asking questions, and exploring what it is. So that was one of my many, many left turns.
Well, they can show up in so many different areas of our lives. Another one is relationships, whether it's a partner or a working relationship or friendships. Have you had any left turns in relationships?
Oh, yes, absolutely. My husband and I are realtors, as well as many of the other things that I do. And we were in a business relationship with another person who, when it started, it was great. And then it became something that wasn't great. And I kept trying to force it. And we were making so much money and we were so successful. And, I would saying to myself, why would I want to leave this? Like, you're crazy. You're going to leave this 6-figure income. And what? We were miserable. Both of us were miserable, and we'd had so many conversations about what do we do and how can we change it. And she was not willing to explore those things. It was basically, it's my way or the highway. She wanted it to be more of a dictatorship, not a partnership. And I was like, that to me is not a partnership. So it just got to the point where, and I had, okay, well, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and then we'll leave the partnership. Well, that didn't work. She kind of forced an issue, and that was like, that's it. That's the last straw. And we're going to choose to end the partnership. And she was shocked. She really thought that she would force us into submission of what she desired. And it's like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
Submission in you, Betsy, doesn't. No, that's like an oxymoron or something.
It's like, I'm happy to, co-create things and being, there was a lot of my life where I was in that position, and I was like, no, I'm not going to choose to be in that role any longer. And so again, what are you doing? You're crazy to leave this. And then it's like, all right, so then what do we do? Where do we go? How do we rebuild? And then looking at, I think for me, one of the things was how she was treating my husband, which was awful. And it was like, I could handle a lot more than what I was seeing her do to him. And I was like, no. And so with that, it's like, if you cannot honor and respect us and have conversations, and I'm happy to look at everything and own my piece of all of this, and like, let's make it greater. And she wasn't willing to do any of that. So I was like, okay, it's time to go then. And, just be willing, and that's the thing when it's something like that and it's scary as all get out, you're walking away from, a nice paycheck to the complete unknown. And that's where having faith in yourself.
Yes.
And knowing that you've got this, no matter where you are in your life and what's going on, you actually are so much stronger and capable than you think you are.
Yes.
So yeah, and that is just the example that popped up of, with when there's a relationship that's not working and the person's not willing to do things to work with you, then, it might be time to say
bye-bye. Yes, I've had a couple of those myself. I think that's, a very humanoid kind of thing. You've been with Access for a long time in a lot of roles. How has Access influenced, or has Access influenced any of your left turn choices?
Greatly, because it really showed me, it taught me so many questions and tools to ask, and to know that question gets you out of conclusion. And so many times I was a conclusionist. Like, I thought I had to do it this way, and and this is the way. And then Access comes along and pretty much undid everything that I thought about this world. And it's just like, oh. So it made being a real estate agent way easier. I believe that it.
More about that. How did it make being a real estate agent way easier?
Because I learned how to ask questions and follow my knowing and follow the energy of what I was aware of, as opposed to, again, conclusion. Because there's a lot of realtors will say, well, real estate is so hard, and buyers are this, and sellers are this, and the market is this, and the interest rates are that, and blah, 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 blah. And if you feed into all of those points of view and you toe the party line, then guess what? Real estate is hard. Buyers are X and sellers are Y, and the market is terrible. But if you don't, and you're just like, hey, and breathe the energy of, I wonder what else might be possible here. It made everything so much easier. It made negotiations of contracts, which I love to do, so much easier. Wow. And I have an innate sense and knowing of like what is going to have this deal go through. And people will fight me, and I'll be like, even the house that we bought that we're living in now, I knew the price that the sellers were going to take. And we were still with our business partner at the time. And I told her, and she's like, I want to negotiate this for you. It's like, okay, fine. Here's what the sellers are going to accept. And I was like, and she goes, no, we're going to do Laura. I was like, fine, but I'm telling you that they're not going to go below this number. And, sure enough, a couple of days later, she finally comes back and she's like, oh, guess what? Really, so it's for me celebrating that I have that
Yeah.
capacity,
Yes.
and I ask for it to be exponentialized. It's like,
Yes.
come on, like more of that, please, more. So it's made my life so much easier. I believe the other piece, it it's contributed greatly to my marriage.
Oh, yes.
We were not in a good place at all. I was not kind to him. He was not kind to me.
Uh-huh.
And we were just kind of existing.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, ugh. And that's not the case anymore. We really now have a partnership and we truly care about each other. And so, pretty much every single, relationship that I'm in, it has contributed greatly. It brought me back with my mother before she passed away, and we were able to repair a pretty fractured relationship, and that was all. And it was all because of me and what I had changed in my world.
Well, that was interestingly, I was going to ask you about family. I mean,
Yeah.
there's partner and family and friends and all,
Mm-hmm.
but so you were able to do some left turns with your family.
Yes.
What did those look like?
Yes. Beautiful.
Oh,
Beautiful.
nice.
Yeah. The fact that, going from hardly having any relationship with my mother to caring for her in her final years. And, then she eventually moved in with us. And then we were, 24/7 care. And the conversations that we had. And at the very end, probably the last 6 months of her life, she really started to get curious about what is this thing you're doing? Tell me about it. And I would try to, put it in words that she could receive and understand. And she was like, oh, oh. And she started using words that I never thought I would hear come
Wow.
out of her mouth. Like she was grateful
Wow.
and things like that, it was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
absolutely
It's a
beautiful.
lovely energy. And interestingly, when you said 24/7 care, it didn't have that duty, desperation energy, that
No.
martyrdom. It was joyful,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
just goes to show you can do something and it can be from this energy over here, which is
Mhm.
kind of, I'm doing my duty, or it can
Yes.
be from beauty, which comes from that all of those left turns we're willing to have and be.
It's so true. So true. And and I look at all that and I'm like, I did that.
Yes.
I did that.
Acknowledgement.
And it was, wow, look at that. And my mom had said to me at one point, she's like, I'm 91 years old. I'm never gonna change. I was like, well, mom, you can choose to change at any time. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, huh. And she went away and she mulled it over. And then she started talking about different things that she had never talked about before. And she opened up and revealed things about her childhood and how she formed a lot of her points of views and in her life. And I was so grateful to have those pieces of awareness that
Uh-huh.
she had never shared with me.
Nice.
That
Yeah.
really explains a lot of how she grew
Yeah.
up and who she was as a person. So,
That's very lovely. And it just goes to show left turns in any area of your life, any
mhm,
area, can create so much greater and so much beauty.
truly.
If
And
you had anything to say to people who are like, well, I don't know, Betsy, I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to fail or this or that, what would you say?
mm, oh gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I have quote unquote failed, and is it really failing?
Good.
And if it is like, what if you just get up and you dust off and you go again and not judge, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Like at one point in my life, I weighed 500 pounds. And it's a lot. I don't know what it is in
Metric or
I don't know, but it's a lot. And it's like, 3 people, average size, 3 people. And, so when I was carrying that amount of weight around and I would do a diet and I would lose a little weight and then I would gain it back. And then, and then I did the yo-yo thing and there were a lot of failures. And it's like, okay, I can choose again. I can choose again. I can beat myself up, which
Right.
I did plenty of times. I judged the heck out of myself, my body, the lack of, self-control, the lack of willpower. What's wrong with my body? What's wrong with my metabolism? All of those things. And then it's like, well, that's not getting you anywhere. So can we do something different? All right, let's try something different. And then it's been, different adventures and explorations along the way that has had my body responding in a much happier way and releasing the pounds that were really to me, in my world, they were a symptom of a lot of other things going on.
That's an amazing story, Betsy. And for all of us, we have some areas where it just requires that trust in ourselves, that courage, that determination, that not giving up, that not making some situation something greater than ourselves.
Yes.
So that's very, very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And, just keep going. And when you have bad days, it's okay. Allow yourself the bad day. And then what is tomorrow? I remember one time I was just in a mood and I was like, and I was like, okay, I have a choice. I can continue this mood. I can give myself 5 minutes. I can give myself the day. And I said to my husband, for whatever reason, I'm going to be like this today. Tomorrow I'll be good. So just, I would just kind of stay away and know that for whatever reason, I'm choosing this mood. You went, okay.
Nice. Yeah.
But to me, it was like, that was the first time I'd ever given a kind of warning. Yeah. And instead of just being bitchy and snarky and trying to bite his head off, is like, I don't know what's going on exactly. And I don't really feel like asking questions right now. I'm just going to be in this and I'll be good tomorrow. And the next day I was good. So, it's also even just honoring all of those things.
Yes. You thinking of the 5 elements of intimacy: honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. And you've displayed all of them.
Oh, thank you.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Betsy. What an interesting conversation. I'm so glad we can get this out to the world.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I think just in a wrap up, like, be kind to yourself.
Yes.
I've been unkind a lot of times, and I find the kinder I am to myself, the more my body and my being respond in kind. So, yeah.
Yes, kindness. Okay, thank you all for joining this episode of the Left Turn podcast.
Thank you.
Well, have an amazing day.
Bye-bye, and thanks for having me on, Marilyn.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a treat for me. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Left Turn. I wonder what embracing left turns could create in your life. What magical possibilities might show up. Remember, when you choose left turns, you are joining a group of the most creative and brilliant people the world has ever known.